Nach dem Treffen in den USA über Ukraine wird jetzt viel die Rede sein von Sicherheitstruppen aus Deutschland und andere europäische Länder in die Ukraine zu stationieren. Und ich verstehe, viele deutsche Bürger möchten das nicht. Trotzdem muss man die Realität im Auge behalten. Und die Realität sieht so aus. So people, what I basically just said in German, I'm going to have to repeat in English a little bit. So Trump and the European leaders had a meeting with Zelensky in the White House just the other day. And now we're talking about already, the Germans are already paranoid and about if there's going to have to be troops sent into Ukraine on some sort of peacekeeping mission if some sort of deal is reached. And most of the German people don't want to do that, which is kind of surprising because I remember most of the German people were all like, Slava Ukraini, and whatever happened to that shit, huh? Whatever, oh, right. Now you might have to actually do something, right? And now it's like, nah, well, you know, Ukraine isn't really that important, which we said from the beginning. And people like me have been saying from the beginning, listen, this is a problem that was created by the West. And it's, Ukraine sadly allowed itself to be swayed by the West and the USA, right? That's why this war started, right? Putin does not want Western troops, NATO, etc. in Ukraine, right? That's the whole reason for this war. I know a lot of people are going to tell you, no, he wants to take over all of Europe, so we have to let the Ukrainians die so we are safe. Yeah, that's a bullshit story, and we all know that by now. The most of the evidence points to the fact that Russia does not want NATO on its border in Ukraine. It's been a red line for decades and decades and decades. And now we're getting to the point of maybe finally making the war stop, right? And instead of, the first problem is that Friedrich Merz, right, keeps bugging Trump about this fucking ceasefire BS, right? I told you guys last week, Trump does not give a fuck what the Europeans want, right? He just doesn't care. Because, first of all, the Europeans and the administrations before Trump are the reason why this problem exists to begin with. And instead of trying to solve the problem, the Europeans are acting way bigger than they actually really are, which is always the case. The European politicians, they write checks their asses can't cash, right? That's how we say that. So they got big mouths, but they can't back shit up, right? Trump does not take these people seriously. I know he compliments them and everything. Oh, Ursula looks great, and Friedrich Merz, oh, I love your tan, and it's amazing, and your English is impeccable. Yeah, that's all. But Trump, he does that to put people off guard, to flatter people, to butter them up for the deal-making time. He does not really respect the European leaders. I can tell you that right now, okay? And why should he? The European leaders have been shitting on him for 10 years. So if I was Trump, I'd be like, fuck y'all, right? I'm the king. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And what you guys have to say doesn't mean jack shit to me. Sorry. But he's not going to say that, right? He's even not going to embarrass them. He's even making them look good, right? Because he doesn't want to, completely tear them down. What he wants is for the Europeans to be able to manage and lead their countries, right? And not put them into socialist hellholes of censorship and climate change. What Trump wants is serious people to deal with. And if you've got people that are living in an ideology and living against reality and trying to flee from reality or ignore it at every possible corner, Trump and most Americans won't respect you. You know what I mean? I'm just saying how it is. Okay, I'm just saying how it is. And look, I get it that if some sort of peace deal is reached, that the German people do not want German troops stationed in Ukraine. I get that. Now, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it, for one, right? I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. I think this debate has been opened way too fast, right? Way too quickly. And the reason why I think it's not going to happen is because there is just no fucking way Putin is going to allow a NATO-like... that's the whole problem to begin with. I just said it. You know what I'm saying? Putin is not going to allow Western troops that are involved in NATO, especially, to be in Ukraine keeping the peace. It's just not going to want to. It's not going to be part of the deal, and it doesn't have to be because Putin is winning the war, right? And when you're winning the war, you don't have to bend the knee to what European politicians or even Donald Trump wants to do, because Donald Trump is not going to send American troops into Ukraine to actually fight Russia or have a war with Russia. Putin knows that, right? Putin knows that. And so, if there is no deal made, it is just a matter of time before Putin takes either all of Ukraine or forces Zelensky completely to his knees, kills basically every one of the troops they have left. You know, they're bleeding people, right? They are hemorrhaging people. And Russia has enough people. They're not going to win the war, right? The only way to win the war is if the West, including America, decides to put boots on the ground and actually go into a kinetic war with Russia. And that is not happening while Trump is in the White House. Guaranteed. Right? What actually might happen is the Europeans are going to keep pushing this fucking bullshit, making demands. They're in no position to make demands, yet they continue to make demands. Donald Trump will get irritated as shit about that in 5 seconds, right? I know behind the scenes Donald Trump is telling him, listen, you guys stop with this fucking demand-making shit. You're in no position to make demands. Stop it. We'll do this war, end this war the way we see fit. And if you want it otherwise, you do it. And then we're all fucked, people. I'm telling you that right now. We are lucky as citizens of these countries where we don't have control of these politicians who are making life and death decisions over our lives. Right? We don't have control over these people. These people are out of control. And so we are very lucky to have Donald Trump involved in this. Because if it were up to the Europeans, they would get us into a hot war with Russia before they let Ukraine fall to Russia, right? They don't think, they live in moral unreality. Only thing that matters to the European politicians is morals. But see, morals sometimes clash with reality. As a matter of fact, they often do, right? You can't be a moral person and survive in an unmoral world, right? It just doesn't work out like that. So sometimes morals cannot make decisions. You can make moral decisions if you're in a luxury position, right? When you're not in a luxury position, you can't make moral decisions. And the Europeans are not in a luxury position. They're the militaries are basically all in downtrodden state. They're completely dependent on America for security. You know what I mean? We've got people in political office that can't find their ass from their elbow, right? And they're running the country. It's completely insane. It's completely insane. So what we don't want here is Donald Trump to pull the plug from America and say, okay, we're out. You deal with it. You think you know better? You think you can demand a ceasefire before there's any more talks and all that shit from Putin? Okay, you deal with Putin. I'm going back to America. I'm going to go chill. This is your fucking problem. We're pulling the plug on the money, the weapons, the whole goddamn thing. I see that being a likely scenario if Europe keeps it up, right? If the European elites and the European politicians don't get in line and support Trump in finding a solution that will benefit all sides or make it less painful for all sides, let's put it that way, right? Because benefit, I guess, nobody's going to get out of this, right? It's painful for everybody. So he wants to reach a less painful deal as quickly as fucking possible. And the Europeans are like, no, it has to be a ceasefire first. No. They're like these petulant children, right? It's ridiculous. The fucking people are ridiculous. So we don't want Donald Trump to leave the stage here. Trust me. Because the Europeans are not going to solve this conflict at all. They do not have the capability. They don't have the mind power. They cannot shake their ideology, and they cannot think outside of their moral little box. That's a problem when you're dealing with reality. And they're pulling us all into this bullshit. Not only are we paying for the whole fucking thing already, right? Then we might actually get pulled into a hot war with Russia because of these idiots, right? So then it'll be time to move to Russia. I'd rather be on their side, to be honest, unless America's involved. You know what I mean? But I don't trust these European politicians to do a fucking thing correctly. They haven't so far. So, what can you say? So, now, if it were to come to some sort of agreement that Putin was willing to accept, and he said, okay, if it's not under like Article 5 conditions, so it's not like that if something happens with the peacekeeping mission, because the problem is it's too dangerous to put for Putin to allow Western NATO troops on the border of Ukraine. Because if it's an Article 5 type situation, that if somebody attacks from Russia, one of these groups of NATO countries, that means that America and everybody has to get involved and fight a war. There's too much danger for Putin about a false flag. You never know if one of the European countries is going to act like Russia shot first, and that triggers an Article 5 war on Russia. They will do it, and Putin knows they'll do it. So he's going to be like, no, under any NATO or Article 5 type conditions, no troops, right? That is something the Europeans are going to have to understand. That isn't. Then if they don't submit to this demand, then the war will just go on until Putin wins completely. That's how it's going to go, right? That's how it's going to go. So the time to make a deal is now. And if the deal were to involve troops on the ground in a peacekeeping mission, then what choice do the European countries actually have? Of course you have to send then people. If that's the way to stop the war, right? And to give Ukraine at least some sort of guarantees. No NATO, that's not ever happening. Not while Trump is in office, I can guarantee you that. Right? You might find a dumbass in the future that's going to do it, but I don't think so. Right? I don't think so. America now understands, at least most of the people in office now, understand that NATO is not going to be an option for Ukraine. So that's not going to happen. If Putin accepts that there are peacekeeping troops on the border, Germany has to do something and also has to send some. The fact is, it's these politicians and the people you've been voting for that have gotten us into the situation we are in, and you cannot expect America to just pull Germany and all of the European countries out of this position and they do nothing once again for it. That's the whole problem. The whole reason we're in this fucking mess is these people have been so laid back about any problem. They could do their Klimawandel and their fucking welfare to illegal immigrants and, tax the fuck out of everybody. They could live this luxurious, prosperous lifestyle in these European countries only because America has been footing the bill for the security of the countries. That's insane. That's like the mafia. How do you give your security, put that in the hands of another country? Doesn't matter which country. That's insane. Because then that country owns your ass. And that's where we're at. Right now, you've got a president Donald Trump, that is not going to foot the whole bill. He's not going to put American soldiers down there. He's going to say, okay, Europe, we've reached a deal. Now you will do your part. And they're going to have to fucking do it. Not only for Donald Trump, but for Ukraine. It's a way to stop the killing in Ukraine. I thought that's what everybody wanted. It's not like they're going to be asking the European soldiers to go to war with Russia. No, it's going to be a peacekeeping mission. So guarding the area, right? If Putin agrees to that, I can pretty much guarantee he's not going to attack. Okay? So it's going to be a pretty safe ride. The Europeans actually got saved by Donald Trump, and if they make a deal, right, from a possible hot war with Russia, which the Europeans would never have won. All of the European militaries are gutted to shit. Any weapons or ammunition we had is now in Ukraine and been fucking offloaded on the dark web or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Or shot up. So what's Europe gonna do? They can only do anything with America. So be thankful that if there is some sort of deal reached, that we are saved from this scenario. And if that means that we're going to have to put some fucking military troops as peacekeepers in Ukraine, then that's what's going to happen. Sorry. I'm sorry. You can't have your cake and eat it too, people. Right? And I get it that the German citizens are pissed off about that, but look, don't be pissed off at the Friedrich Merz of today for this if they get it to where there has to be German soldiers in Ukraine. This is the result of policies and politics made over decades and years by unqualified, incapable morons that you fucking people elected. So it's all of our fault, right? Except for mine, because I can't vote. And I wasn't here during that time. I've only been here for the last 10 years, right? You know what I mean? But really, it's Europe's own fault that they're in this situation. And you can't just sit back with your arms crossed and expect America to save your ass out of it. It just is not going to work. Not with Donald Trump. With Biden, it might have worked because Biden was mashed potatoes for brains, right? But with Donald Trump, that shit's not going to work. So while I understand you guys completely that you don't want your German soldiers up in Ukraine, it's too late for that, right? It's too late for that. This is why voting matters. This is why paying attention to politics matters. This is why voting for the right parties matter. I truly believe that we would be way, way more removed from this conflict already if people would have voted for the AfD instead of the Ampel, right? Because they have the balls, the know-how, and the backbone and spine to go against the EU and go for the interest of Germany. If they don't do it, right, if I'm wrong and the AfD is not that kind of party and still acts like the establishment parties and does everything just the same status quo as the establishment parties have been doing, well then Germany's lost. Because they're the only party left that we can even give a try to give the chance to solve the problems, right? They're the only ones left. There are no others. All of the other parties have failed this country without fail. They have failed over and over and over and over again. Not only have they failed, they have purposely sabotaged their own people in every possible way. And yet you guys still voted for them. And now we're in a situation where decisions have to be made, and Donald Trump is not going to save you. So now, maybe, if German soldiers end up going to Ukraine, you know what I'm saying? Maybe the people will wake the fuck up and say, wow, we really got to vote for other people that make better decisions. Yeah, you do. That's right. I hope that time has come. But just to tell you right ahead of time, if there is the decision accepted by Putin that peacekeeping troops from European countries are going to be allowed to be stationed in Ukraine, to keep the peace there. I don't see any way for the Europeans to try to dodge that responsibility in any way. But I think you're going to be lucky, right? I think you're going to be lucky. I don't think it's going to come to that for two reasons. Putin will not accept it if it's under any type of NATO guarantee. You know what I mean? It's just not going to do it because the risk is too great. That even if he doesn't attack, there will be some sort of false flag attack that makes it look like he attacked, and then we're off to fucking World War III. He's not doing that. So any peacekeeping shit will have to come from countries outside of the EU and outside of NATO. So therefore, I think you guys are going to be safe. And you won't have to send German troops, right? But then remember how close these people have gotten you, your sons and your daughters and your kids and the country, to a kinetic war with one of the largest nuclear powers in the world, right? And that would be thanks to politicians that are dumber than fucking bags of dicks. It's horrible, right? Start electing better people. That's the message, and it always is. People, that was the Insanity Report for Germany for today, Thursday, the 21st of August, 2025. Have a fantastic rest of the day. We will see you guys tomorrow. Don't worry your heads too much about the troops. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it does, you know I'm right. There's just going to be no way around that one. Sorry, guys. And I know that's not your fault completely. You did vote for the people who made it happen. But I guess it would be hard to say up front. It would have been hard to tell that the Green Party was actually pro-war. So you guys got that on your side. All right, people. That's it for me for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great one. Catch you then.